they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball, I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say, I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play it safe. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing, keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get big right, cause it can get big right, cause it can get big right. Ay, please don't play no games with me, I promise I'm too much. Ay, I can never let up even if you had enough. Ay, this ain't for the faint of heart, we always playing rough. I had enough, it ain't luck. I needed a vision, I needed ambition, I needed a mission to beat in submission with no intermission. I see the collision, the crash in the distance ain't coming off track, no. Now when they ask what's the motive, don't talk, I just show them. They all about to see what I mean in the moment. I gotta keep going, I'm shaking the dice and I'm keeping it rolling. They already know. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play it safe. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing, keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get big right, cause it can get big right, cause it can get big right.
All right. Salute to everybody who's in the building, man. Salute. Clap it up one more time. One more game. We'll do one more game. Yeah. Salute to everybody in the building. Yeah, man. Welcome back to the Boxing Take. It's your boy Clay Moraine. I'll be your host today. Oh man, it's fight week, right? This is a big week, man, in boxing, man. I know. Listen, we came off of a great weekend of fights. I don't feel like everybody tapped in the way we tap in over here, but I don't expect everybody to tap in like we did. But we saw what happened in the super middleweight division, conversations, needle moving fights, right? Diego Pacheco versus Kevin Sajo ended the way it did. Super competitive fight, but Diego Pacheco picks himself up WBC, I guess, silver belt or whatever kind of belt it is. Either way, it puts him into the crosshairs of potentially fighting Hamza Shiraz, right? Now, we don't know what's going on yet. That hasn't been called out, but Diego Pacheco is definitely in the biggest part of the conversation in the super middleweight division. That's how that goes down. Joe Cordina, on the other hand, gets himself a victory and puts himself right there, gives him an opportunity to go ahead and reach out to Abdullah Mason. Let's see what happens there. Seems like Eddie Hearn is on the same page. Abdullah Mason, a WBO champion, I'm sure looking for that home field advantage, looking to perform out there in Cleveland, Ohio. It looks like Eddie Hearns and Joe Cordina are all aboard trying to put that together. So we'll be looking forward to see how that develops, right? Of course. What other fights were on the card? We saw what's my guy, Ernesto Tito Mercado do his thing, and that's how the weekend turned around. But this week right here is the week. It is the Jake Paul week, right? This is the week where Jake Paul fights with Anthony Joshua Friday night on Netflix. Decent undercard too. The women will be on the big stage, of course, but Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua are going to run it up this week, and we're going to talk about that this week, right? I know some people might feel like we shouldn't. Maybe they don't like the idea of Jake Paul being at the top of the boxing conversation, but we're going to talk about that today because in all honesty, I want to put some perspective as to how we got here, right? And what this fight this weekend really is all about, right? What is the significance of this fight between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, and why is Clay Moraine so excited about this fight? Because I am. I'm not going to hold you. I'm definitely excited about the fight. I'm super intrigued by the fight. I think it's part of the bigger picture. This year has been a year with a lot of big needle moving events that have happened this year, right? We saw Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez come together, and we saw Terrence Crawford defy all quote unquote odds and defeat Canelo Alvarez in a dominating fashion to become a 3-weight class undisputed champion. Great moves were made right there, right? We saw Devin Haney, redemption. He made his return as people were counting him out based off of a horrible experience he had in the ring with the Ryan Garcia, not his best performance, but also the story that built around it, the performance enhancement drugs that were involved around it, the toxic boxing space that held Devin maybe even more accountable than he did Ryan, and how his redemption just signified the return of the sweet science, making people believers again in what boxing is all about, not just about all the tabloids and all that energy. And yes, boxing is an entertaining sport. And speaking on entertainment, Jake Paul, arguably inside the conversation of being a face of boxing, which has always been a point of contention for me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys as well, right? A point of contention to say that Jake Paul would represent the American boxing space as one of the biggest extravaganzas in boxing. And what did that say to the likes of a Terrence Crawford, who did what he did? What did that say in the light of a Shakur Stevenson or a Devin Haney, right? What did that say for fighters who are coming up in the game like Xander Zayas and Bruce Shushu Carrington and Abdullah Mason? That Jake Paul would be somebody who would garner more attention, right? He would garner more attention in the boxing space than these up-and-coming future superstars. Well, here we are right now, and it's all culminated to this. Jake Paul is on the big stage and finally maybe answering the prayers of a lot of boxing fans who wanted to see Jake Paul get inside of the ring with a legitimate opponent. Coming off of a Gervonta Tank Davis, Jake Paul announcement that really rubbed a lot of boxing fans the wrong way, right? And maybe even the actual fans of Gervonta Tank Davis as well rubbed them the wrong way, having to, argue as to the legitimacy of this and why there's nothing wrong with this, and making all these arguments for why this fight made sense. But the boxing gods had different ideas about where this should go, and maybe the boxing gods did, right? And I don't believe in boxing gods, first of all, right? I'm being, take me with a grain of salt. I don't even believe in one God, of course, but at the end of the day, just to put it in perspective, to say that the way things work out sometimes you have to look outside of the physical to figure out why it's happening in real time, right? In this situation, really, age is aging somewhat like wine to a certain degree, for ultimately what ends up happening is we see Jake Paul, after the Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul fight falls apart due to outside circumstances. We're at this moment right now where we're going to see Jake Paul in the ring with a heavyweight, two-time unified heavyweight champion, Olympian gold medalist in Anthony AJ Joshua. And we're here now. We're here now. And the Jake Paul experience, the journey with Jake Paul, taking him all the way back to fighting Nate Robinson, right? And stopping Nate Robinson on an undercard of a Triller card, to now being on the biggest stage. There's points of where you have to give Jake Paul his props and his respect, because, at the end of the day, what a journey for him to get to this point. This man was literally in negotiations with Canelo Alvarez at one point, right? And ultimately took that. That didn't work out, but ultimately took that and went into a Gervonta Tank Davis fight, right? Crazy. That didn't come together, but here he is getting ready to finally get in the ring with somebody who is really going to pose real imminent danger for Jake Paul. And is it justified? Is it right? This is beneath Anthony Joshua, says the boxing space. I hear you. I really do. I hear you. I understand. I understand where you're coming from with that. I can resonate, but I can tell you as a boxing fan, as what I like to consider a real boxing fan, right? Who just loves to see the sweet science in the ring. I love to see talent. I love to see stylistically competitive matchups, right? The best fighting the best, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is what I like to see. I can say that the Jake Paul situation has been an up and down thing for me. At points I can be happy for Jake Paul being in the space because he brought so many eyes into the sport. He brings, I mean, I talk about him in past tense. He brings so many eyes to the space. What he's done for women's boxing, you know, all these things are things that he can be celebrated for. And I will celebrate him then, continue to celebrate him for that. After all, we're going to see Alicia Baumgardner on this undercard fight, a 12-round, 3-minute rounds, 12-round fight, right? That's right there moving the needle in the sport, right? A lot of females have talked about how they wanted the rounds to be a little bit longer and they wanted to be treated, you know, like the men, to a large degree as much as they could be. And that's a move in the right direction when it comes to that. We've seen him do great things with MVP Promotions. We've seen great fights. Knockout of the Year was on MVP Promotions last year with Lucas Body and H2O, right? A lot of significant moments that Jake Paul's been involved in, putting on Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, 3 times? You know what I mean? Like, just so many moments that he's been involved with where we can give him his respect. But there's always been a point of contention for me when it came to where he was in the boxing conversation, right? Jake Paul calling out Canelo Alvarez and trying to put that fight together and speaking towards, you know, being the biggest star in boxing. That always bothered me because the American boxing space was in a down time where it just seemed like we had our priorities all in the wrong place, right? It is what it is. But now, does it come full circle and does it all finally make sense? That Jake Paul, who brought in a whole lot of casual fans, for those fans to see what boxing really is, to see you don't just come into boxing overnight and put yourself in the conversation of fighting top 10 fighters. You don't play boxing, right? You don't play boxing. That's what it comes down to. So now we get past the silliness of it all, and Jake Paul is inside of the ring with this Olympian. It's going to be, what I understand, 8 rounds, 10-ounce gloves. Anthony Joshua has a weight limit of 245 pounds or something like that, or you know, I'm not too sure if it's on the night of the fight or at the weigh-ins. I'm not too sure how that's going to work out, but regardless, that's the rules. But outside of that, this is a full-fledged professional fight that's going to go on all these guys' records. So it is what it is. And we're going to talk about that today because we got to talk about the psychology of boxing. We have to talk about what's the difference between Jake Paul and a Terrence Crawford or Canelo Alvarez or Shakur Stevenson or any of these guys who've put blood, sweat, and tears into this sport ever since the young ages of 8, 9 years old, even younger. I think Shakur said he was doing it ever since he was 5 or 4 years old. I want to say, I think I heard him say, right? These fighters who have been doing this ever since they were the youngest kids, putting in the work, sacrificing their childhood, focusing and being dedicated, disciplined fighters from day one to get to the point now in comparison to a Jake Paul, who's somebody who came in off the street, right? Came in off as a YouTube influencer, Disney Channel, although I don't know, I didn't see him back then like that. I just know his history, like his origins, and for him to end up being in the situation he's in right now. And are there going to be a lot of questions answered on Friday? Is there going to be some understanding put onto the sport on Friday? And does American boxing win or lose off the strength of what happens on Friday? Right? How does American boxing benefit from this? We're going to talk about all those things, guys. Hit the like button while you're stepping into the room. Do that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it. We've got some things to talk about, but this is the week. This is Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul's week, and we're going to give them their respect. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the fight, promote it, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to try to make sense of it all. Don't kill the messenger. You know what I mean? We didn't make the rules. We're just here covering the sport that we all love, and this is top news right now in the boxing space. Friday, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Let's talk about it. But of course, I'm not going to talk about it without the homies, without the usual suspects. We'll bring them into the building. Bear with me here. Let me just line this up correctly here. Here we go. Uno, dos, and eight. Salute to the usual suspects. Angelo Reyes, Ray, MF and Davis in the building. What's good, fellas? How you guys feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Ray Davis is in the final 3, Clay. He's in the final 3 of the Guillotine Fantasy Football League. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What a season. What a season, huh?
Man, it's been crazy.
With nobody's, Clay. With nobody.
No, stop it. Stop it.
Well, they thought it was nobody's, Ray. They thought it was nobody's, but you were picking it.
It's just spinning the wheel, man.
I like that though, because that segues into the whole casual energy of people who might not have understood what you were doing when you were making your picks and what was fueling your picks, and knowing that you were getting past the silliness of it all, and it wasn't just about the biggest stars; it was about the talent.
Exactly.
You were picking the talent, the people who fit the position, who were going to do the job you needed to get done efficiently. And that's why you are where you're at right now, right? And that goes a little bit into like what we're dealing with now, right? With this whole entire situation with the American boxing space being as it's been for the past 10 to 20 years, somewhere in that range, inside that window, just kind of gone in a completely different direction. And we've seen a lot of people propped up to be something that they may not have been. And we've seen the people who are probably like that not being propped up, being suppressed, being held down, right, and not allowed to get to get their proper accolades like the people who were propped up were able to do. And it looks like Friday is going to be one of those moments. In my opinion, what a great way to end a crazy year in 2025 of great fights and great moments in boxing, but maybe even more importantly, usher in a new year, 2026, of what boxing should be like. What do you guys think about that?
No, what's crazy too is for you guys who are listening to us right now on ATP Combat Media, please hit those like buttons and share with everyone. We're trying to get it to the 3,000 mark before 2025 is over. But it speaks to just how popular boxing is on a global scale. Just this week alone, we got fights in Japan that are world title fights that'll happen tonight or early morning tomorrow for East Coast people. We have fights in Australia happening tomorrow. A former world champion just a year ago in Tim Tszyu, right? We have fights in the UK all happening, all in the same space of the next 24 hours. And yet there will probably be more views on the Jake Paul versus Joshua. No. I'm talking about just the press conference. I think the press conference and the weigh-ins will probably get more views. And it just speaks to, again, how is it a Jake Paul thing? Is it a boxing thing? What is it, Ray? Like what got us to this point, Ray? That Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua is only a plus 650 in Las Vegas, dude, which is insane. Like a year ago, I would have said this should be plus 6,000. Might even have been plus 60,000. And it's only plus 650.
I'll tell you what got us to this point. Casual fan base. Who the casuals are coming to see? And what I mean by casual, this guy has a huge YouTube following, a good entertainment base. Those guys are coming to pay to see him win, regardless, right? They don't know who. A lot of these guys out there that follow him don't know who Anthony Joshua is. Us boxing pundits, we do know. We do know that this is going to be very dangerous for him. And a lot of people will just be like, yo, this guy just beat Mike Tyson. Of course he's going to beat this guy. So when you get to the Vegas going to make money on Anthony Joshua winning this fight, right? They will make money on this. So, when it comes to when it comes down to it, Jake Paul is surprising us with some victories, in quotations, that has surprised the boxing space in the world. So there's nothing to say at coming off a loss to Dubois, and them speaking upon that with in one of those like ring interviews or that little card back and forth thing that was pretty hilarious. That says something. Okay, this guy just lost. Okay, so this guy ain't that good. Jake Paul can beat this guy. It's putting in the mindset in the people. So yes, it's going to change. It's going to change. Obviously, by the time the fight happens, it's going to be skyrocketing Anthony Joshua by like 8,000, like you just said. But in the meantime, they're trying to get these people money, bro. Vegas ain't stupid. They not stupid.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to Reyes earlier, man. This is about Vegas is all about reality versus perspective. Leaning on the psyche of the bettors, right? Pushing back their psychology and trying to find the right mixture, the right formula to incentivize putting money up and gambling. You know what I'm saying? So they got to balance it all out, but they do represent the consensus, I would say. And that's why this fight is so important, right, Angelo? Like, that's why this fight is so important on Friday, is because the consensus is a bit skewed from the reality of what things are. And they say a hard head makes a hard ass, right? Or something like that. How's that work? Right? So it might be the belt to ass that the boxing space needs, right? To wake up. You know what I mean? Wake up. Shout out to Spike Lee and Do the Right Thing, right? Wake up. Wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what this Friday card may exactly do for the boxing space. And I said may, because listen, man, one thing I've learned in my experience being on this YouTube space, just watching people, is don't never sleep on how foolish people can really go, the extent of foolishness that people can reach. Never put a ceiling or anything like that over that potential. People can just, surprise you every single day. But Friday is a good shot at it. You know what I'm saying? It's a good shot at it. And if you love boxing the way I love boxing, then you're probably rooting for Anthony Joshua to do what he does in spectacular fashion. And we hope that the world, we pray that Jake Paul will be healthy, that he will get through this and be, listen, man, right? We don't want nothing that crazy to happen. But yeah, man, the boxing space may need to see this. Did you guys get an opportunity to see the actual face-to-face yesterday with Cameron and Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua? You guys get to see that?
No.
Yeah. No. I thought it was. I thought it was. It's worth it, Ray. Because
Ray, how you did not see that?
What do you mean, bro? I worked this the night before, so I came home.
No, but it was on all day. So I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't even think. Let me see. What did I do yet? I don't know.
Ray's already dismissing Jake Paul. He's like, this guy's got no chance.
I've been caught up in a lot of different other things. I was talking to when I did wake up, I talked to here for boxing. I talked to Frequent. I talked to a few other people. I mean, dealing with some stuff at home. There was a lot of stuff going on. Plus, I had to figure
you were dealing with the other boxing space. That's
right. Right. And no. Actually, yes and no. Yes and no. But in contraire, it wasn't all day. Right. That was like a small portion. I was off my wife stayed home.
I'm right. He was dealing with the other boxing.
He's hitting you with the
people in the chat right now. Look. Yeah. We talked for a minute. We talked for a hot minute.
Okay.
But no, my wife was home yesterday, so like I said, some little family stuff, going on. So
okay.
No. And I woke up late. I worked.
Right. You didn't get the wake up call. No. I was gonna say. So I watched it and I thought that it's very interesting how they take these guys, they chose Cameron to be the host. They take these guys into an $80 million house, the MVP house, the influencer.
Is that
house.
What it was?
Yeah. It was like 80 million, Jake's walking in and then, Joshua's getting a tour. Then they do a little boat race.
Oh, that's Jake Paul's house?
It's the most valuable promotions house is what they're calling it.
Okay.
So I think it's one of his properties probably.
What's his name? Keisha, whatever.
Yeah,
I didn't know that the significance of that property. I thought it just picked like.
Yeah, no. It's like an $80 million most valuable promotions house, headquarters, whatever. So so and then they're sitting down. I like the way they sat him down instead of the over the table with a chair. They were just like chilling, relaxed. And I thought Jake was doing all the Jake stuff that he does. I mean, if he really believes some of the things he was saying, I would say, wow, that he's got a really good team around him that's really got him believing. I think that he's kind of halfsy. I think it's like he's testing the water in and out versus I felt like Anthony Joshua has been so experienced at this stage for so long that at least the way I was reading it is that Joshua's there to do a job that needs to get done. Because when he started talking about, when he broke down how he can take Jake Paul's soul, right? Like there was that whole section where he said the thing about Jake Paul is he's a very mental fighter. He's, Zen this and that. And I believe that once I take his soul, this thing will all be done with, right? And when he said that, and I was looking at Jake Paul's face, I was like, yeah, that wasn't scripted. I don't even think Jake Paul expected him to say that.
One thing for sure, Angelo, what I'm realizing is that this is not scripted. I don't care what anybody says, you know what I mean? Unless you can give me some solid proof, we're not subscribing to that energy. This is not scripted. And I think what you just said earlier about as far as his team around him really doing a good job of building this guy's ego up and his character up. And I say that respectfully. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And you see Devin Haney, sparring in the ring. He's sparring. What do you hear somebody going up? Devin Haney, the greatest, the dream, youngest undisputed champion of Full Belt era. This is the Devin Haney. They're screaming. What are they doing? They're building up the confidence of this young bull in the ring. And I'm sure Jake has a very good supportive cast doing that as well. But I agree with you. That moment was probably one of the most significant moments in the whole entire face-off, because here we have an experienced Anthony Joshua who's been here, been on the big stage, faced adversity. He's been knocked out. He's been stopped. He's stopped plenty of people. He's been in there with Klitschko. He's been in there with Alexander Usyk. He's knocked out Dillian White, been on the big stage for so long that he's getting past the silliness of it all, right? As he's watching Jake Paul have his moment here and trying to say the statements that are going to spark the algorithm and go viral, as Jake Paul is in his influencer mode trying to be that guy. Anthony Joshua is enjoying it and saying, something, I admire that gritty spirit you have. Nobody can tell you nothing. You're here to defy all odds. Yep. It took other people from 9 years old, 8 years old, 10, 12 years old to put this work in. And just because it took them that long to get this, who are they to put a ceiling over you and say that you came in the game too late and that you haven't fought anybody? Yeah, you're different. I get it. You're the exception to the rule. My experience says there's no such thing as what you're talking about. But I'm appreciative and I admire that fire in you. And I think that night of the fight, what Anthony Joshua was saying is, that's probably going to be my biggest feat. That's what I'm here to do, is to debunk that shit.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I just watched it. Yeah. So, by the way,
I'm not here to just beat you. Beating you is duh. I'm gonna beat you. No, what's gonna be more interesting is watching me change your mind. Is watching me change your perspective on what this is all about. That's gonna be my joy, right?
Right. And no matter what, again, the narrative of storytelling is going to be what it is. Well, like Jake Paul or don't like him, he's going to be synonymous with a name like Anthony Joshua, who will end up in the Hall of Fame. And just like when Floyd Mayweather always says, I'm 50-0, let's not forget that one of those was Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor, and people forget that was Conor McGregor's first ever boxing match, right? Mm-hmm. This is Jake Paul's, what is it, his 10th? Is it his 10th match, Clay? I think
10th, it might be his 12th, actually, right?
Is it his 12th match? Right?
Let me hold on. I think it's going to be it's going to be his 14th match.
Man, he's got more fights than Adam Azim, bro. That's crazy, right?
I knew there was some spin to this.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I gotta do it. He got less fights than Tito Mercado, though, but
yeah, I knew he's going with this.
I know it. I'm watching him build. I'm letting him build. I'm watching him.
Yeah, but what I'll say is again, like, no matter what happens Anthony Joshua will actually become even more famous, even more popular for this fight happening, whatever the results may be. The one thing that you've already spoken on, Clay, is that you don't play boxing. I mean, we just this past weekend, we saw Jai Apataya defend his title against the mandatory. He broke that dude's C1 vertebrae, put the guy in a brain contusion, had to do a self-induced coma to do a, so that's a possibility. I'm just saying, because Jai Apataya is 200 pounds, that's a cruiserweight fight. It is extremely possible that 100 million Netflix global subscribers will witness a very scary thing that can happen in the ring, similar to Apollo Creed and Dolph Lundgren, bro, and
Ivan Drago.
Yeah, Ivan Drago, right? It feels like a movie. It's possible because even the size difference is massive. You look at it and you go, "Oh Jesus, this is big." You couple that with the fact that what fights has Jake Paul really done to get himself prepared?
Exactly.
What is it? Because are we counting him knocking out Ben Askren, who was a wrestler? Are we counting him knocking out Nate Robinson, who was a basketball player? Is that what we're doing? Right? To justify a possible punishment that we are going to witness. We might be seeing a mass public execution. No, I mean, again, and I say that I don't want anyone getting hurt, but we might.
Here are the consequences, right? Here are the consequences on the other side of reality, right? And that's what this is all about, right? This is perspective versus reality. This is your understanding of the sport and getting past the silliness of it all and understanding that the ultimate consequence is possibly being unalived, right? And that there's a reason why people have been saying this for years. You don't play boxing. So Jake Paul is in a situation where I believe, listen, let me tell you what I believe. I believe Jake Paul loves boxing.
Yep.
I believe Jake Paul wants to be part of boxing going into the next era that boxing is going into. He wants to be inside of that conversation. I think I can respect his aspirations to accomplish goals and to be defiant, to not let anybody put a ceiling over him and tell him what he can or he cannot do. I can appreciate that. I really can. I can truly resonate with that, as a matter of fact. Just putting this channel together. You know what I mean? And this little journey, this little bitty journey, comparison, I'm not comparing it to a journey of a damn, what Jake Paul is doing or what Shakur's been on his whole career or what Terrence Crawford just accomplished. Oh, listen, bro, right? But just a little taste of something I can resonate with to say that, people may think you're limited and put you inside of a box of what you are and what you can do. And it's nothing. There's probably no better feeling than to break that box apart, stomp on it, and throw it in, and use it as firewood and be like, get that shit out of my face.
Right.
I can do so much more. So shout out to Jake Paul, man. But then there's a reality as well. There's a rites of passage in anything that you do in life. There's putting your time in, right? In the military, the officers there was always a little bit of resentment between the enlisted men and the officers. Why? Because the officers came in with education, and when they came in, they were automatically higher ranked. They didn't do and go through what the enlisted men went through. So although the enlisted men would listen to the officers, there was always some resentment there, like, you just being gifted this respect I'm supposed to give you. I got to listen to you. You don't even know half the shit I know. I know your job better than you know your own job, and you're right. So there's just something about paying your dues.
Yep.
That is understated at times. It's underrated and understated. And this is a situation that we're figuring out right now on Friday. The comparison that Anthony Joshua, an Olympian who's fought the Klitschko's, who's fought Alexander Usyk twice, right? Who became a unified champion 2 times, who's in the conversations of being one of the best heavyweights in the world, all the years, all the pain, all the psychological adversity he had to go through, taking a loss, coming back from it, getting his mind together, switching from trainer to trainer to be who he is today, to even believe that this influencer, YouTuber who picked up boxing when he was wealthy and decided he thought he could do something were to jump in a conversation of potentially being competitive with me. What did this guy do and accomplish that have you guys believing this conversation should be had? And because of that, that's why the conversation needs to be had. Right. It's not for Jake Paul, it's for us. It's for the boxing space. We need to have some understanding and give some value and put some respect on the name of the game. Right. What this game really is. The people who are really putting it out there, putting in that work and putting that sweat do not want to hear this. They don't want to see Jake Paul out there getting $40 million and getting a fight. Could you imagine if that fight with Canelo Alvarez and Jake Paul would have happened? What a spit in the eye of David Benavidez. What a loogie in the eye of a Diego Pacheco, right? Or even Terrence Crawford or anybody else who worked their asses off to get that opportunity to have this guy get in here because of his influence. No. Yeah. So this is a redemption story. This is a redemption story potentially for the game. Guys, hold on 1 second. I got to bring him in here, bro. Great weekend for this guy right here. You know what I mean? Respect on him. Put some respect on that name. I'm going to call him Coach Hackett. I'm not going to call him Benard Hackett. I'm going to call him Coach because that's what he is, right? At the end of the day, he's a coach. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, he's a trainer of an up-and-coming superstar in the game, future boxing champion in the game, in Jaleel Hackett. Welcome on the stage, guys. Benard Hackett, Coach Hackett in the building. Salute, Coach.
How's everybody doing today?
All right, how you doing? Good to see you again. Congratulations.
Man, it's a pleasure to be on. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you all.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know you just haven't, you had a weekend, so I'm glad you're making some time to come and break it up a little bit with us. How was your weekend, by the way? How was it?
Oh, it was great, man. It was a great show, great environment. Wish we would have had a little longer to show what we do. But, hey, Jaleel, like he always says, he don't get paid for overtime, so he get it done.
You're not playing with our food this time around. Nah, not at all, man. Really more excited to what you guys are going into 2026. I'm glad Jaleel got an opportunity to end the year with a performance like that. You know what I'm saying? It's got to feel great as a team going into 2026, trying to take this momentum right into the next chapter, right?
Definitely. I think every team that's finishing up their year with a fight coming up or just had one recently passed, they all feel like, hey, we ended the year on a positive note. Going into next year, let's build on it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking forward to see that happen, man. Did you have an opportunity? I mean, because listen, Angulo didn't seem like it looked like, you guys just ate that up. That was just to get him out the way. I mean, God bless Jose Angulo, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, is there much that you guys learned from that fight or took away from that? Was the experience, or was that just kind of like another day at work and you guys are just back at it again, ready to fight next week?
No, every fight that you have, if you don't take anything away from it or didn't learn anything from it, then it wasn't a positive for your career. For us, I thought for me, Jaleel actually showed me more relaxation. A lot of times he's a go get it guy. That's never going to change about him. But just wanted over the last 2 or 3 fights, we wanted to look more for relaxation within the eye of the hurricane, as opposed to just a storm that's just coming from all directions. So I thought that was better. Even though we had a tough guy in front of us. I'm not going to say he's not a tough guy, because when you look back over his record, I like to look at guys' records that we're going to fight, because I like to see if there are any guys who I consider quality guys who've also been in the ring with him. He was in the ring with Rashidi Ellis. Rashidi Ellis stopped him in 7 rounds. He was in the ring with Ernesto Mercado. It took Ernesto Mercado 7 rounds. He was in the ring with Alberto Machado. It took him 8 rounds. He was in the ring with Jose Gonzalez. It took him 3 rounds. He's been in the ring with some quality guys, and it took them rounds to get him out of there. Right. And Jaleel got him out of there in 1 round. That was the shortest outing of his career. So for me, I don't let records fool me. I get involved in performances. So if I can look at a guy, and I think Rashidi Ellis is a very high quality guy, and it took him 7 rounds. I'm a fan of Machado. I'm a fan, and it took him 7 rounds. So when I see these guys taking rounds, who I know they don't play with their food, and they took them 7 rounds, and Jalil gets them in 1, then I do put quality on that win. So for me, it was something that we did learn from. He put the punches that we were looking for together, and he relaxed. The more relaxation I see in Jalil, the more the delivery has more viciousness to it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this, Mr. Hackett? Because we had Jalil on the show and had an amazing conversation with the young man for almost 2 hours. It was like well over 90 minutes. And he was very open about his entire career and what's going on with him. Would you say that leading up to this fight that just happened this last weekend, what also contributed to him getting that first round knockout is this might have been the most complete training camp he's had? I mean, again, I'm using his words in terms of him really focusing in now. Would you say that the training camp was smooth? And what did maybe you or he or the team learned about this particular training camp going into 2026?
Well, for me, I learned that when you have a young athlete of any type in any situation, the young mind is fragile. And if you do not keep the young mind focused on the ultimate goal, then all of the little things that happen in between, those things don't become as important. I think with the different things Jalil has gone through since becoming a pro, like I said, I don't have any ill to any promoter because they gave us opportunities that other guys did not get. But within those opportunities, Jalil had inactivity. He had a 1 year where he only fought 1 time, and to keep a guy in the gym every single day with nothing on the horizon, it kind of got to be demoralizing, especially when they came from the amateurs. If you're a high-ranking amateur, you fighting regular. You stay in shape because you know they're gonna call you. So
Right.
I think all of those things that happened to him, if you look at it in its totality, they were actually a benefit. If you could start a marathon off and it's snowing, it's hail, it's sleet, but then you get to the point where it's 60 degrees with a soft wind, the marathon gets easier as opposed to you have everything smooth at the beginning, and then when something hard comes up, you don't know if you have what it takes to deal with the hard pressures, not of the sport, but of the mental side of it.
Love it. Can I ask you a question, Coach? I just want to ask
Yes, sir.
that Jalil was outspoken about some trials and tribulations. Also being called in on short notice his last previous fight to this last fight. Having a full camp, and I guess this is almost on the tail end of what Angelo just asked you. Having a full camp, does this show us who Jalil really is as opposed to who we thought he was off a short coming of just getting a call? Because I always thought the kid had some fire in him, and I think this right here shows that this is the guy I thought he was. So, is it way for you to speak to that?
I would say this. I think I've been honest, sometimes honest to a fault when people ask me questions in relation to my son. All his previous fights, even when he was winning, not when he had a loss, all of the fights, I always said, you've only seen Jalil at about a 45%. Other than his pro debut, you've only seen him at 45%. Whether it was him trying to meet a goal at 47, and I'm like, you too big for that, but he's really pushing himself to meet the goal, or it's getting short notice fights, or anything, and I don't overlook the self-inflicted wounds. Like I told Jalil, everybody goes through something. We as adults go through something every day, but we still got to fulfill our obligations to take care of our families.
Absolutely.
So including the self-inflicted wounds, I think he's only showed you maybe 60% of himself. But in this fight, here, you probably saw, I'll be honest, I think you saw about 85% of Jalil. I really think it's room to get even better. And I think I'm being generous saying 85%.
Right.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it seems to be the getting the mental aspect of the sport aligned with the physical, right? Like you probably you guys done so much work physically to know that he's hitting new levels every day or every week or however it looks, camp to camp to camp. He's becoming more of an efficient physical specimen, right? He's becoming
Yes.
somebody, a warrior, you know what I mean, maturing. Because keeping in mind, of course, this is a young up and coming guy. This is not, he's like we were talking about last time you were on here, he's growing. You're hoping he
Yes.
stays a little still for a second. So
Yeah.
we're dealing with the reality of that part, but then there's also the maturity of what's going on between his ears coming together, and that's evolving, and maybe not at the same pace as the physical, right? The physical might have got there before the mentality got there. But you're watching, and what I saw talking to Jaleel last week was this is the chapter it seems like he's in his career, right? Is this mental space catching up, the maturity and the understanding, and really the treasure and the gift that he has, and how grateful he needs to be in that moment for what he has, and allowing that to come together, right, and achieve what God put out for him, what's ordained for him to do, and him seeing that now probably is going to put more incentivization behind the move forward in the journey. And it seems like, and I'd ask you, is that an exciting feeling to watch your son get into this chapter? You've probably been waiting patiently, like you've been letting him grow and waiting for him, but to see this coming together, does that give you more excitement about what's coming in the future now? Like you're seeing this come together.
Yes, definitely does. I had a boxing executive tell me one time, he said, when Jaleel realizes he has star potential, it's going to be scary. And I laughed with him. He said, everybody in boxing knows that he has all the potential to be a star. He was like, we just laughed. We just talked for a few minutes in the hallway at one of the venues. He said, you don't hear young fighters or some of our top guys calling him out. He says things that other fighters would have took offense to and said something, and they don't say a word. He was like, they know what he has the potential to be. They're just hoping he never realizes what he has the potential to be.
I like that. And you know what I really like about Jaleel and to you, coach, the growing pains of this, right? So the loss was a loss. Who cares, right? And the only reason I'm speaking on it because I think at the time it happened, it's perfect because when you lose, you grow. I always believe failure or anything like that helps you move forward and it makes you better. So I think that happening early in his career is only to prepare him to be better because he's going to always remember what that feels like. And now going forward and seeing the way he's fighting this last fight, if he continues on this way of fighting in his career, dude, the sky's the limit for the kid. And as you just said, even this executive seen it, and I've seen it. Me and Clay talked about this all the time. So I just want to give you respect and kudos for him because I love the growth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And definitely allowing him to be exposed too. I think, this father-son dynamic in the boxing space is that's a conversation within itself as a fan of boxing from the outside looking in, just seeing all the fathers, right? I mean, you see, obviously Bill and Devin, you see Tiafimo and his father, you've seen Roy Jones and his father at one point in time, Shane and his father, Danny Garcia and his father, the Schofields, all these father-son dynamics that work in the space. And I always wonder how you guys balance. You guys all have different approaches, but at the end of the day, you're a trainer of a fighter, but you're also the father of a son. And I guess what I'm saying by that is you're still raising your child, boxing or not boxing. That's what you're doing. You're just doing it on the big stage in front of the world. So he's fighting, but at the same time, you're still taking accountability for who he's becoming as a man. And you allow him to be exposed, to speak for himself, how much trust you have in him. How much faith do you have in what you've instilled in him? And, it's a roll of the dice at the time. All right. They say you raise a kid, but you don't build his, what he's going to do is what he's going to do. So that must be a breath of fresh air to see when he's going in the right way. It's like, whew, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and whatever lesson it is that he learned, it was severe enough to change his mind, but not severe enough to alter his life. Cause we know decisions, have consequences at times, you know what I'm saying? So we always pray that whatever those consequences are, that they're, we balance it out. And I'm glad to see that Jaleel's lessons he learned in his life were in time, right? That he didn't lose everything on the back end of those lessons. But how do you balance it out? I mean, is it a prayer? Are you a spiritual man? Like, how do you let go? Because you seem to be like somebody who's allowed Jaleel to grow, to experience. You didn't get in the way of everything. You know what I mean? You kind of let him put his hands in the fire. I know there had to be moments when you see him move where you felt in your discernment said, snatch him by his collar, like, but would he have learned? Would he have really understood like he understands now? How do you balance that?
I look at it in this way. From the time my son was born to the time he was, I want to say 18. That's a number that the average world, recognizes. It was my job to raise, teach, direct, and give counsel. When he became 18, we did things together, decision-wise together. But going forward after that, and he's only 22, I kind of start lessening my decision-making part and increasing my giving you my opinion part, and then you make the decision that you feel is best for you. I think it's a job as a father to raise a man, not just to keep raising a boy year after year after year. I shout out every father who is in this business with their kid. I shout them out. I think they're doing an amazing job because so many kids don't have a father that's active. But what I do think I try to do different is that I remember I have a young man. I remember we're in a sport made of violence. And I'm not the violent guy. I'm a coach. My son is the violent guy. I'm not going to get in an argument with a fighter about violence. But if my son gets into one with a fighter about violence, I can't shut him down, because at the end of the day, the walk that he walked got to go along with the talk that he puts out. My job is to come up with game plans, get the game plan into him, do preparation. His job is to be able to carry out the game plan, see avenues that he can add his personality to it, and finish the job. If everybody does their job and does it precisely, it runs like a well-oiled machine. It's when somebody tries to do someone else's job that there's a lack because they didn't concentrate on their job.
Yes, sir.
I like what you just said. I just want to say thank you personally, because Clay and I talk all the time. My oldest son is becoming a problem, right? He just turned 18, so big shoes to fill, right? So I like what you just said. I actually wrote that down. I'm going to take note to what you just said, and let him, talk to him, work with him through things, and help make decisions with him as he grows. We'll let him off the leash a little bit, because I'm trying to teach him as well, and I keep telling him that. But he's at the age where he just feels that he's just stepping into real shoes, and he thinks it's okay to voice his opinion. But I appreciate what you just said. That's a great lesson for me. You know what I mean? And to be a father to my son. I can't speak for everyone else on the panel, but Clay gives me some good advice. But that was like very recent too. So that was right on the money, man. God puts us here for a reason, and thank you for that.
No, I appreciate it. Anytime we can help each other, that's what the part is. It's not just it takes a village. The village got to have common sense. You got a village full of idiots. It can only produce an idiot.
Yo, did you guys see that clip of that guy who just said something? There's a clip going around where the guy was like, "It says it takes a village to raise a child." And I hope I don't get demonetized for this, but he says, "But what happens when the whole village is retarded?" It's like, what you gonna produce? It was a funny clip, but it is true, man. You got to have some sense about yourself before you can go to trying to implement sense in somebody else, right? Like you gotta take it a step at a time. You gotta take it a step at a time. It is what it is, though. But so Coach Hackett, outside of what Jaleel's got going on and going into I don't know, do you have any news? Because I'm sure, I feel like I have this feeling like things are under wraps right now, that there's so many things going on. I don't want to be rude and ask you about personal stuff. Like, is there anything that could be shared about what we could potentially see happening with Jaleel in 2026? Any deals, any fights, anything you want to share?
I think it's a lot of good things that are going to happen, and when the new year breaks loose, I think we'll see we made right decisions. That's just the best thing I could say right now.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's a great way to say it, Mr. Hackett. We'll keep talking on the side about it all, but that's a great. Great. What I'll say about Jaleel is at 22 years old right now, future is very bright, and you've definitely trained this young man the way he should be trained, right? From the amateurs all the way to the pros. That mentality of I will take on who's in front of me, right? It's my job to train and be the best version of myself, because really I'm fighting me at the end of the day. I'm not fighting the other person that's in front of me. So I know that a championship will be there sooner rather than later. We wanted to bring you on to talk about it too, though, because you brought your son all the way up to this level. And the biggest subject of this week is going to be this whole, I can't believe Jake Paul is fighting Anthony Joshua, right? And we've watched with our own eyes because it's been televised, unlike Jaleel's career, right? Like, it's not like we got to see Jaleel televised all the way from the pro debut all the way up until now, okay, versus Jake Paul himself. I mean, the Nate Robinson fight was highly viral, right? Going all over the world. And that was a basketball player. And then it went into the Ben Askren getting knocked out. And then it just kept going that way. Do you, in your heart of hearts, if knowing what you know, do you believe that Jake Paul has gone I don't want to say if it was right or wrong, because every man's got to make their own decision. But if you're part of that team, would you be so convinced that Jake Paul has a chance against this? Or is this just what we in the fan base are looking at? This is a massive payday. It's $100 million almost for each fighter. And you can't say no to something like this. And in a way, I was speaking to it before you got on. It's almost like we're being told, damn, the cost of what this could end up being. Because, you don't play boxing. We've seen Jaleel hurt people. We just saw Jaleel hurt someone, right? It could end very badly. But just in your own experience, is this the time? Is this right? Where are you at in terms of this whole Jake Joshua Judgment Day?
I'm one of those people that kind of think differently than the average person. If you got the potential to grab that type of money and you're willing to take the risk that come with grabbing that type of money, so be it. So be it. I'm like, we're glad to live in a country that has opportunities to do and be who you want to be. So if he's able to position and push himself in a way where he can do this, I say more power to him. I think that Anthony Joshua hurt himself career-wise by fighting this fight. Nobody can tell me how it hurts his career. Nobody tells me how it hurts his legacy. I think that at his absolute best, Jake Paul, I don't even think he could hurt Anthony Joshua. At his absolute best. It's not like you're looking at two, and that's not to say anything ill against Jake Paul. It's just we're talking about Anthony Joshua, who was one of the best amateurs, was also an Olympian, gold medalist. We're talking about a man who's won the heavyweight title on more than one occasion. We're talking about a man who's fought against some of the best fighters of his time in the world. And he has a way above winning record. So he wins more than he loses. And size-wise, he's going in there with significant size. I know they're saying they wanted to have it a weight class or have it at a weight that made sense for weigh-in. But remember, this man is a multi-millionaire. He has some of the best people that know how to rehydrate him to be at his optimum best. So when you put all of those things together, I think we are more concerned about, does he remember that this is a boxing match, but it's also against a pseudo celebrity boxer, as opposed to this is for a heavyweight title, and when I have him hurt, I'm just in here to finish him. I think it does boxing no benefit to see Anthony Joshua detrimentally physically destroy Jake Paul. I don't think it benefits boxing at all for that. I think it does benefit boxing if he goes out there and gives him a very good, remember we're real boxers and you're still learning. I think that benefits boxing because then we'll see people open their eyes to, yeah, he got something with him, but he's not one of these guys that should be ranked in the world above guys that been doing it for a lifetime. So that's my take on it. Like I said, I think he's done a lot for the sport of boxing. I have to give him his credit for what he's done. And I think he'll do a lot more for the sport of boxing. This is not a guy saying I'm the greatest. I could be the heavyweight champion. It's just a guy who said, hey, I can fight. I got people who willing to pay and watch me fight. And so far, to me, it seems like every real fighter has followed the script. They followed the script. Beat them up, don't knock them out. And the ones that were pseudo 50-50 fights, they were against mostly UFC type guys who their skill level is high when they can use their feet.
Right.
When they can't use their feet, it really was a balanced fight between Jake Paul and any of those guys. They have great chins when it comes to getting kicked, but when it comes to getting hit, those chins are porcelain. So I think when you put it at an even pace level, I think he's good for boxing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a balance. I think it's a bittersweet. It's a balance. It's Jake Paul is an acquired taste, but there's definitely the pros to him being in the space, and it seemed, I don't even want to say cons, but just kind of what you said earlier, as far as making the world aware of what these fighters have been through to get to this point. And like I was speaking earlier before you came in, there's always seems to be, if we're going to be fair, a rites of passage, right? And paying your dues, quote unquote, and how important that is. And somebody like Jake Paul, who's coming very ambitious, right? He's coming with a lot of, he's very defiant is what I call it, right? He's been very defiant to what people think he can do versus what he knows he can do for himself and what he's willing to put on the line to show and prove. But in comparison to somebody like an Olympian, gold medalist, two-time unified heavyweight champion, he's been in there with just some real monsters, you know what I mean? And that the boxing space would even entertain that this fight is going to be competitive seems like this fight needs to happen, right? A fight like this needs to happen because we need some boxes checked and we need some questions answered and we need some perspective put on boxing in general so that Jake Paul is not the face of American boxing. You know what I mean? Like,
let me be the devil's advocate for Jake Paul. Devil's advocate for Jake Paul. If you compare Jake Paul's career to some of the guys who are currently highly ranked fighters or world champion fighters, I'm gonna say some of them. I won't say their names unless they want to argue differently. But I can say Jake Paul in the fights that he's had up to now, it has had a tougher career than a lot of fighters. I can say he's had a lot of tougher fighters. I'm looking at guys that got records on their name, on their guys on their record who have good records. But when you dig inside of those guys, they 12-0, but they haven't fought one fighter that's above 500. When they have a 19-6 record, but all 6 losses were knockouts by subpar guys. One of the reasons that we didn't mind fighting Angulo, because he had fought quality guys.
Right.
If you look at some of these guys who have upside down records, they fought more quality guys than guys that they pushing, talk about this gonna be the next great one. I mean, I can look at different situations that people talk about, not me saying it. They say Bob Ehrman is the best at moving you to a title. If you look at some of those guys, some of them guys ain't fought nobody, but they got titles. Let me say that I'm a fan of Xander Zayas, even though I want to fight him at some point in time with my son. If it happened to do, if it don't, it don't. But I had people giving me great arguments about why we shouldn't fight him compared to records. So I went and compared the records.
Hmm.
Who is Xander Zayas fought?
Hmm.
When I looked at it, he ain't fought no one. You can't run down and say, well, he fought these 3 guys in their heyday. He fought this guy when he was undefeated. None of that. And I argue with people and I say, once again, take away the losses of the last guy we fought. And I hate to take them away because they were quality guys. We like 62, 63, and 10. And the 10 losses, they have a name of who beat them. And if you do the same thing to Jake Paul, take away Nate Robinson. And I won't say take away like Mike Tyson, because there's a lot of it's a lot of fighters that's fighting right now that I bet you if they put them against Mike Tyson have a winning record. So when I look at it, I'm like, I can't doubt Jake Paul if they say he taking light fights. Well, half of these guys taking light fights. I saw a post that the Ring magazine put up about a year ago, or a little less. The future of boxing. It had like the Abdullah Masons, Xander Zayas. They had Carmel Moten.
Brian Norman, I think. Yeah.
Right. They had all these guys on here. And I made a comment on a post. If y'all think those are your best tier 1s, I'll let my son be a tier 2, and I can pick a tier 2 from each one of their weight class. And I bet you if you offered the tier 2 to fight, they would take it, but the tier 1 wouldn't.
High risk, no reward, right?
I'll definitely say this. You're definitely playing devil's advocate for sure. In my opinion, you know what I mean? You're definitely but legitimate arguments, good arguments. But I think for me personally, at the end of the day, you know, Jake is doing. I never fault Jake for anything he does, how he moves. He doesn't have the amateur background. He doesn't have the pedigree that these other fighters have. He's moving with what he has, and he's working well with what he has. Mm-hmm. Right? He's making, you know, he's been dealt his hand, and he's playing the shit out that hand. You know what I'm saying? However you want to look at it, and that's what he's supposed to do. I never look at the fighters that way, but the fans at times I think aren't, especially the ones who are new to boxing, who are just getting in on the back end of a Jake Paul, or just coming in the latest era, the latest generation of fighters who don't really have any real reference to the history of boxing. You know, if you haven't watched boxing, they see a Jake Paul, and I think sometimes they get it misunderstood, and they put him in conversations I don't believe he belongs in personally. Right, when it comes to what's going on inside of that ring, as far as a fighter is concerned, not the promotional part, not what he brings as far as eyes to the sport, not his market value and what his line share of the market is, but they don't know, and I think this fight on Friday is an opportunity for people to kind of get some real understanding as to why there's levels to this game and what's the difference between one kind of marketed art, somewhat artificially flavored version of boxing in comparison to the blood, sweat, and tears that somebody like your son or, you know, any of his peers, even as Xander Zayas, have put in to get to the place that we're at. And I think the fight's needed for that.
Well, I think when you look at boxing, coaches make boxers, promoters give them platforms, fans make stars. I don't care how much a promotion company wants to shove somebody in your face. If the fans are not behind them, he'll never be a star. Just like there's been fighters that the promoters never got behind, but the fans were behind him and forced him to the front of the line. At the end of the day, I think fans hold a lot of control over the positions that we put a lot of fighters in. I had a conversation with a podcaster, and he was giving me the blues about, man, Jalil's not a slick black boxer. He does this. He should do this. And I told him, where did you get that assumption from? He said, because he's black. I said, oh, okay, that's a heck of an assumption because he's black. I said, have you ever talked to him? Have you ever asked him about his style of fighting? He said, no. And I told him, ask him. he got to talk to Jaleel, and Jaleel said the two fighters that I was shown the most of growing up was Marvin Hagler and Julio Cesar Chavez. That's what, in his formative years before boxing, but just watching, that's what was in his mind, that's what made a fighter. Mm-hmm. So when he began to fight, and that was what he knew, and he went with it, and it gave him success, that was his personality. And I am so glad in the best, worst sort of way things happened the way they did, because it freed him. He was in a bottle trying to fit a billing that wasn't him. Mm-hmm. When that bottle finally broke and he felt free to be happy in his mental space, he was like, man, I'm happy now. And the black Mexican thing, when he came home with the tattoo, and they put that on your shirts when we do fights, because to him, it gave him the freedom to say, the two people who formulated me the most,
right,
those are the two people I want to give homage to. And both of them were the type of people that said, damn, what you think about me?
Right.
That was their freedom.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree 100%. I mean, going into, did you get a chance to see the face off between the face-to-face, with Cameron moderating? Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that.
Can I ask you, Mr. Hackett, how real was that conversation between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua?
As real as the conversation can be for two people who know the outcome already.
Yep.
I mean, if Jake Paul will not listen.
You feel like
Jake Paul will not make him but so mad, because he wants Anthony Joshua to remember that, hey, I'm paying you, bro. I'm paying you. I gotta be conscious. I gotta be conscious to sign the check. Right. I gotta be conscious to sign the check, and I will not sign it until after the fight.
Yeah, I don't want you to hit that switch on me. Keep it. Don't hit that switch on me.
And Jake ain't never lied. If you go back to, and this is my opinion, if you go back to the press conference with him and Gervonta Davis, and Gervonta Davis said, hey, did you hear what he just said? He threw Floyd in there with the script. He said, I ain't going on script. When he said that, I knew that fight was scrapped. I knew that was scrapped, because Gervonta Davis basically told him without telling him, I'm really going to fight you like a real fighter. And I think Tank would have knocked him out. And that would have brought the whole domino building crashing down. So that fight had to go. If you felt that way,
you had a rogue agent. That went rogue.
Not following the script. And once again, I'm not saying that any fight that we've seen has been a fixed fight. I would say that they say, hey, man, with your talent, your ability, and your past, there's no need to destroy this guy. You can beat him up, but just don't destroy him. And that's why I said what I said about Mike Tyson. We saw times when Mike was biting the glove, because Mike could have hit him with some vicious stuff. That probably would hurt that boy.
He was pulling back.
That would have hurt that boy.
Fighting it. He was fighting
But he still gave him good stuff. Gave him good stuff. It was entertaining, but it wasn't like, I'm gonna finish this dude.
Right.
Wait, before we go for I want to ask this. There was a moment in that face-off conversation that was had where Anthony Joshua was speaking to what he admired about Jake Paul, and he saw Jake Paul being very confident, sitting there speaking about how it was written, and he believes that Anthony Joshua's got holes in his games in all these different areas, and he believes he can exploit these things, and et cetera, et cetera. And Anthony Joshua spoke to the idea of how much he admired his confidence and how mentally strong he was and confident in himself, and he said he was going to basically find joy, and his joy seemed to be in correcting that. Into taking that from Jake, knocking him out, beating him. I'm supposed to do all that. But, what drives me? What's my vested interest in this? It's that spark in your eye, right? I see how what's the word? Optimistic you are about your thinking, right? But has that thought process truly been challenged? And that's what I'm looking to do on Friday night, is challenge the idea that just because you think it, that's what it is. No, I'm gonna enjoy taking that from you. Did that, you know what I'm saying, impact you at all as far as the difference between the reality of experience and the perspective of what you think it's going to be?
Not one bit. Not one bit. At the end of the day, you have to remember, these are not guys without money. These are guys with money.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't think that they have calculated everything out, that's where you would be really have your head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
They have people who have got this scripted perfectly. Anthony Joshua has people who teach him how to speak publicly, not just in this fight, but just as his career, because he's a public figure. Jake Paul, as over the top as he is, he has people that say this is the message that we're getting across. These are not, when you see these guys that Jake Paul has fought that we know of, like the Tysons and that type of stuff, we've seen them at their most ferocious points. We haven't seen not one of them at nowhere near their most ferocious point. They've all come in as lions because that's what they are. But the version we remember them as, the Tysons, the Joshuas, were jungle lions. They're getting the version that's a zoo lion. It's not the same lion. They're gonna the lion that Jake Paul is gonna fight is the lion that had dinner before the fight. So he's here just to scratch him, smack him around. The version that a Deontay Wilder will fight in an Anthony Joshua is one that hasn't been fed before the fight or a couple of days before the fight, and he's going to be put in front of a potential meal. That's the difference. That's the difference.
I like
When you show just that difference, this is for entertainment. The other one is for survival. That is the reason they switched from Gervonta Davis, because he don't have two lions. He got one lion. And that one lion was going to turn over the apple cart. No matter what we feel about Jake Paul, no matter what we feel about any promoters or whatever, the sport of boxing benefits when Jake Paul brings in the numbers he brings in. They're going to talk about other fights that are coming up. They're going to, it's like being able to get YouTube promotion on Kim Kardashian's page. You don't care what she's talking about, just as long as her followers watch the little commercial that comes in between the segments because of the number of followers.
That's a way of looking at it. I never thought of it. Honestly, and like while you're speaking, I'm thinking to what you're saying, right? Because I'm processing and metabolizing it because, yeah, man, there's always a bigger picture. When we're talking about money this big, influence in what you're going to do with it, you don't want to waste an opportunity like this, is what I hear you saying, is that this is bigger than just a fight with two guys in the ring. Other fights are different. Like you said, you brought up Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. That's boxing business. Right. That's two guys on a journey to be great. And each one of those guys are in front of each other's legacy on what they're going to do afterwards. Whereas this doesn't carry that much weight as far as the legacy. Nobody's trying to build legacy here. This is about entertainment. This is about eyes on the sport. This is about what's good for the bigger picture. And the idea that sometimes we sleep on it, because even in the political spectrum of things on politics, understanding that the president or these politicians are a representative of 5 to 10 people who have come together to build this one entity, and how he's going to deliver his message, how he's going to speak, the impact it's going to be, how it's going to affect the algorithm, you know what I'm saying? And ultimately, even with bigger pictures of how this is going to affect things we're trying to win 4 to 8 years down the line, as far as legislation and things of that nature, right?
Correct. Yes, and that's the piece. That's the piece. When you think, just go back 2 fights ago, and when I look at boxing, I look at boxing like let's say the SEC conference football. SEC conference is going to send a bunch of teams to bowl games. Even the worst team in the conference is rooting for their wins because the conference shares a portion of each of the bowl game money. So when you go back and look at boxing from that standpoint, Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul for right now is the national title game. If you go back 2 fights ago, Mario Barrios defended his title on a Jake Paul card. Mario Barrios was with PBC.
Yeah.
So why would PBC or why would Top Rank, Golden Boy, any of them want to see Jake Paul get knocked out so bad where he can't make fights to get fights again when you're putting guys on his card? Boxing needs each other. You cannot have boxing with just one company. You can't have boxing with just one group. Boxing needs each other. That to me was the beginning of the destruction, if we ever have it in boxing, when people are saying, my guys with Top Rank, we don't want to see him fight a PBC guy. My guys with Golden Boy, we don't want to see him fight a Matchroom guy. That is what fragments the sport. And what if Jake Paul is the guy who can get other people on cards and get fights we want to see, whether it's the Saudis, whatever it is, do what galvanizes the sport, not what fragments the sport.
What, Mr. Hackett, let me ask you this. And you have Jaleel, you're training Jaleel, and I don't think you would ever be the type of coach to say to Jaleel, hey, let's carry this guy a little bit, right? And I don't think it's a big secret that when Floyd Mayweather fought McGregor, Floyd could have done more a lot sooner, but he chose to extend it, right? You're saying that Anthony Joshua will do the same because he's already been a fed lion. He's not so much this hungry lion going into this fight. But if he goes back to his home country, and if you listen to how the UK news is talking about it, they're basically almost calling him out. Like, if you don't do the job, Anthony, when you come back home, we're gonna know that you were really on the take. So either do the job and put this guy out the same way Jai Apataya puts people out, or you're just a sellout, and that's why we don't really think you're one of the greatest. I mean, I'm not the one saying that. I'm just saying that Carl Froch has said it, and a lot of other people have been saying it that way. So we're looking. Hold on, Ray. I want to get Mr. Hackett's take on this, and so I just want to know, coming from you, since I know that you would never say that to Jaleel. Hey, Jaleel, let's have Angulo give us a couple of rounds, right? Like these guys love Tito Mercado. Shout out to Tito Mercado. And Tito Mercado himself was like, you know what? The game plan is to kind of get more rounds in. When the truth of the matter is, like what you said, Mr. Hackett, this is the fight business, and anything can happen at any given time. So I don't know so much, but I want to get your take that Joshua will carry this guy more so than, if Joshua has the opportunity to put him out, he might put him out. But where are you at on that, Mr. Hackett?
I'm not going to say carry him. I'm going to say make it entertaining. I'll say this. It could be one of the biggest glorified sparring sessions with just a little more spice to it, as opposed to carrying him. Jake Paul, I do respect the fact that he came into boxing, surrounded himself with boxers and trainers, and has the desire to get better. So I'll say it like this. It's like having a very qualified 17, 18-year-old kid who just turned pro. He got 2 fights. He got 2 knockouts. And they say, hey, coach, you got a fight coming up. Can we get some rounds with you? And I say, hey, how many rounds can I get from the kid? They say, we can give you 6. We'll give you 6 good rounds. I'm going to be the guy to say, Jaleel, pick it up on the kid, but don't destroy him. You can beat him up real good. And now beat him up to the point where we're going to see if his heart is in it. Beat him up to make him quit, but don't beat him up to stop him. If he doesn't quit, he's going to make it through the 6 rounds. If he quits, he needs to reevaluate if this is what he wants to do.
Yep. You're muted.
I think that there's 2 ways this fight can go. I mean, I'll be honest with you up front. I believe AJ is going to knock Jake out. That's what I believe he's going to do. I think that's just the way it's going to have to be. That's what it's going to be. I just don't. We'll see, right? But I am intrigued by the idea that there's a lot of money involved in this, and there's a lot on the back end of this. There's tomorrow, right? It's not just about Friday night. There's tomorrow. There's a conversation that's probably happening about the coming year, on the back end of this, because Jake Paul is not just an influencer. He is a movement on his back, on what he brings to the table when he has his shows. A lot of other fighters benefit off of marketing, off of a big stage, a big platform. I'm 100% on board with you on that, and I'm intrigued to understand how far and diabolical that can reach. You know what I'm saying? As far as in the spirit of growing this and not shutting this down, not taking this off the table, and where it's being used to push an Alicia Baumgartner do her first 12-round, 3-minute round fights. You know what I'm saying? Or Caroline Dubois, or like you said, a Mario Barrios who defended his title on the stage. Just the outlet that it provided for a lot of promoters to put their fighters on a big card that didn't necessarily have their own card that was going to carry that kind of energy and carry those type of eyes on it. I'm intrigued to see how that balances out on Friday, right? I personally, like I said, I'm still convinced that, I'm gonna be real with you, I think AJ has an assignment, and I think the assignment is, I ain't gonna lie to you, I think to stop Jake Paul. That's what I believe is gonna happen. I believe Jake's gonna get stopped.
Do you think Anthony Joshua is a part of the machine, or he's not a part of the machine?
That's where I'm intrigued at. That's where we're going to find out on Friday. That's what it's all about. And I think that's what Reyes was saying was, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, we're going to get the answer to that question. We're going to know if this is a machine-driven AJ, or is this still, is AJ loyal to the machine, or is he loyal to the idea of the pugilist, of boxing, of honest, of that.
He should be loyal to the machine. He should be loyal to the machine. And I would take every person that tells you that he should not be loyal to the machine, they have never dealt with a machine situation in their life. They are not playing with the type of money that he is playing with. And they do not have a vested interest in the sport. Because once again, if you take Jake Paul away from boxing, just take him away completely. There never was a Jake Paul. The only interesting thing that we've basically had in the last few years is what? Earl Spence versus Bud Crawford. Canelo Alvarez versus Bud Crawford. And nothing else.
Yep.
And nothing else.
And I agree. And I literally was going to say the same thing. And what I also want to touch base in, if I can intervene, is say that I think that this is almost like a walk away tour / get back in the ring Jake Paul. I think he wants to get into the management side of things and more the promotional side. And I think this might be a way for him to slide out the door of the ring for a little bit to go do those ventures, because he's been promoting the women's boxing. He's trying to get good cards. I mean, why else would you take a fight like this if you don't plan on having some hiccups or any ways out? You know, I don't think he's going to get hurt, but it's almost like WWE-ish, right? When you got the guy that becomes the manager after, you know, he's hurt or whatever and can't fight no more or wrestle no more. Then he comes back and smacks you with a chair. Next you know, he's in a championship fight 10 months later. I think there's some craziness that can happen like this in the Jake Paul situation, because, like you said, it's a machine. They have to build it. Jake Paul, as much as I hate to say it, he's American boxing. It is what it is. And because he is, it's because he brings that fan base that people don't, that in boxing don't watch. So if you take that away, what you're going to do is you're going to hurt the sport. And he's helping the sport right now. And I think that's going to interject. Bringing AJ here, champion, everything, even if he loses, it has to lose the right way. That's it.
Yep.
It just has to be the right way.
If you name the top 5 cash cows in boxing, is he one of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Especially on the American side, especially.
If you name the top 3 cash cows, is he one of them?
Yep.
Yeah, especially
If
like I
you
said, especially in American, yes.
if you name the top 2 cash cows, is he one of them?
In America, yes.
Period.
Globally,
Period.
no.
I don't think he's the big
I think
number 2.
Anthony Joshua,
I
Tyson
think
Fury.
Alexander Usyk,
Usyk.
and I think AJ gets more money than
AJ gets
and
I think
Canelo.
AJ on the regular.
Look
get
at
more money than
and now you just answered your own question. We asked about in America. You kept giving me that. And he kept rising up the list. Got as
Right.
high as number 2. We could argue number 1. Then we say globally, you only put 3 people in front of him. And do you notice the 3 people were all heavyweights who on an average level always eclipse that list?
Mm-hmm.
So once again, when you think about him, he is the face of the sport. Whether we like it or not, Bud Crawford is the best fighter on earth. He's the best fighter. But let's really look at it. Let's take Jake Paul's last 3 fights. His last 3 fights. And let's take all the heavyweights out of the equation. Take the heavyweights out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have another fighter other than maybe Canelo and Tank that you can put their last 3 fights against and make it a financial line straight across. Everybody else, the line goes here for Paul, and then it drops way down here and
which
goes
breaks
across
my
again.
heart, which legitimately hurts my feelings. I'm in my feelings.
But it shouldn't. It shouldn't, because if you no, I'm gonna tell you why it shouldn't. If you believe that we live in a democratic society,
yes, sir,
then the people chose. They chose who they wanted. It's not like he's with Top Rank or he's with Golden Boy. He's with MVP, his own self, and he bought a fan base to boxing and has built on that fan base because even boxing people jumped on his to make his fights the one that grossed the money.
But okay, so Mr. Hackett, I'm going to tell you, right? What you're saying is 100% correct, right? But I think it's unfortunate that it's true, right? So we're not going to kill the messenger. You're just speaking to what it is. You didn't, this is what it is, and we got to deal with it. But here on the same time, on the other side of this argument, there's an accountability conversation on the American space, boxing, pay-per-view model, redlining fans, pushing out fans who weren't ready to jump on the pay-per-view model, and now this is what we have at the end of a toxic era of boxing.
I'm gonna say why I don't say that. Let me say this. In my time of watching boxing does the new company corporate Forbes 500 moves every 10 to 15 years. Something will start at the bottom. It'll go so high. Boxing has to reset itself. When it resets itself, it tumbles that down and it starts from the beginning again. I'll say this. When I was a kid, I used to love to watch ABC Wide World of Sports, and I used to watch CBS. You always catch fights on Saturday. That model went away, and it opened the door to the they used to no. Before we had that, closed circuit TV.
Oh, right. USA Tuesday night fight. Yeah.
No,
USA Tuesday night fight.
You used to have to go to a movie theater when they had closed circuit TV.
Right.
Then after that, they saw that had a height and it fell. Then it went to USA Tuesday night fights and Friday night fights on ESPN or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Then it went from that till we started getting the HBOs and the Showtimes. Right. Then we kind of topped that out, and then it went to the PBC doing their structure of creating streets, and it now that topped itself out because that model made $100 million men, and that was great. But when it got to the point where everybody wanted 100 million, boxing had to reset itself, which it's doing again right now. My son and that group are part of the resetting of the boxing landscape. And 15 years from now, guess what? That model will not work and it'll reset itself again. It's too many examples of boxing resetting itself. And every now and then, when the reset doesn't want to come as fast as they needed to, we get an anomaly. We had Muhammad Ali. He was out the anomaly of that time. We had the Four Kings, which took the shadow from the heavyweight division. They were the anomaly of their time. Then we had Roy Jones / 2 or 3 other fighters, because Roy Jones said, hey, it was the Roy Jones era, during the Oscar De La Hoya era, during this era. Each one of those eras maxed out the financial dollar that it could at the time, and it had to reset itself. This financial era has finally topped out at guys saying 2 fighters can make $100 million, and all the other fighters thinking that's now the norm. It has to reset itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's resetting itself, the reset always came in with a new generation of fighters. You can't reset with the old fighters. You have to reset with a new generation. It's like, this is the Let Me Make a Millionaire, Regis Philbin, Let Me Make a Millionaire.
Right.
And I can't make millionaires with guys who are already millionaires. So I have to start with a new group of guys who aren't even thousandaires, and they will fight until they get to the point where they've eclipsed theirs, and then you can't get them. You can't get Charlo to fight somebody for $2 million. He ain't rolling out of his bed for $2 million. You can't get a lot of these guys to take $1.5 million and fight. But you could take Abdullah Mason, you could take my son Jalil, you could take Xander Zayas, you could take Schofield, you could take Mercado, you can take a lot of these guys and say, hey, I'm gonna sign you to a 4-fight deal, and you're gonna make $1.5 million as a champion, and you guaranteed to fight 4 times a year. We're gonna see him 4 times. As opposed to our favorite fighter now, we're lucky if we see him twice.
Yeah.
So the every time it resets itself, the biggest benefactor to the reset are the fans.
Yes.
Because right now, we'll get a guy that loses 1 fight and he's a hell of a fighter. This system scrap heaps him. But when it resets itself, you might have to see that guy lose 5 great fights before they think of scrap heaping him. So which do you like? Do you like the fact that it's resetting itself and you're going to get to see more fighters? You're going to get to see some fighters because the different models under free television, you're still going to see some guys on certain levels, but you're going to see them more because when it reset itself, it reset the landscape of the money, and the older guard, they left. That's the benefit of the reset. I'm all here for it. I'm all here for it because I'm gonna see some great fights. We should have had a 4 Kings. Every podcast talked about the 4 Kings with Tank, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson. They talked about those 4. The closest we came to 4 Kings with them was Twitter Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know who has the fastest thumbs. I don't know. But nowadays you actually have fighters who want to fight that are young, because you got to remember they just came from the amateurs where it was okay to lose in the finals because I'll fight this guy again. That's the mindset they have, and boxing plays with a mindset. If you're comfortable with the mindset, then as fans, we change their minds. Hey, that kid can fight. I want to see him fight again.
Right.
These the same people that didn't want to see a guy lose 1 fight. Now they want to see a guy with 3 fights, 3 losses get a title shot because he fights hard.
Right.
So it has to reset itself. And that's what we're going through now. The reset of boxing.
I agree.
Wait, hold on. Everything you just said, by the way, that's definitely getting snipped. That's definitely getting put on. Like, I got to separate that. That was a great representation of the changing of the guard and the process of the guard changing. In other words, everything has a process. There's a way things work. And this period in time represents something you've seen before. which is a changing of a guard. We have to reset, you're calling it. And I love it. And that's what I believe it is. And no but at the end of that, except just to say, and you know, I guess there is a but. Let me not say there isn't a but, because there is a but. And the but is Jake Paul is a conversation that needs to be had in the ring on Friday for this transition to happen, in my opinion. I believe this needs to be addressed. This is the way to close out 2025 and to bring in 2026 correctly.
You're right. You're right. But
it's
you
a
don't
literal reset. Everything you said, I feel like the downfall of Jake Paul is part of the comment. This is what the boxing gods have asked for. The boxing gods have requested blood, a sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? That's for the benefit of the big picture. And I think Jake Paul blood. But
you got to think about the way that you do it. Because if you do it the wrong way, you make him a martyr. If you do it the wrong way, you martyr him. Let's look at this. Let's just be real. Did Mike Tyson and Jake Paul make more money than Earl Spence and Bud Crawford?
Facts.
Yep.
Okay. So if that is the case, that means not just his fans from YouTube, but purist of boxing people also took a liking to it. So I think about the fighters and what he's done. You don't want to say the only reason they sicked Anthony Joshua on him was to destroy women's boxing. Because in essence, if you destroy Jake Paul, you destroy women's boxing.
Wow.
He is the catalyst for seeing some of the greatest women fights that we've seen, because the traditionalists of promoters didn't give two shits about women's boxing. I am a fan of women's boxing. If it takes Jake Paul to get beat up but not destroyed, which Anthony Joshua has the ability to do, and it keeps him around, then I want to keep him around, because I don't know about anybody else, but the best trilogy I've seen in 20 years was Amanda Serrano and Kate Taylor. That was the best trilogy I've seen in 20 years. And that's really slapping men's boxing in the face, because we should have had several of those in men's boxing. And I'll be the first to say it. Them women got nowhere near the money they deserved. And I don't know what they got, but for what they gave us 3 times, it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So if
the women are carrying that energy that you want to see the men carry. We say that all the time when you watch them fight. They're fighting each other. The best are fighting the best. And everything that we want in boxing, they seem to be holding it down right now, as the men have allowed it to turn into a circus show.
And that is exactly the reason why you prove my point. I want to see him get beat up like he's supposed to, but I don't want to see him destroyed to the point where his fan base realizes, oh shit, he's a facade. And now they walk away from boxing. Because always remember, when you crack an egg, you will get a piece of the shell inside of it. If you break Jake Paul completely, how much do you think walks away from boxing now? Let's say he get beat up to the point where he realized, I can't do this no more, and now he goes off and starts doing motocross. He gets into motocross real heavy, and he takes his whole fan base to motocross. Now guess what will replace your shrinking boxing map? Motocross. Because if he takes 70 million people to motocross, then motocross just got a spot where you're now 80 million to 15 million fans who are not there anymore watch motocross. And I'm just not in the place where I want to destroy. I don't want to cut my nose off to spite my face.
That's funny. You said that motocross kid, that was like dirt bikes and jumps. That's crazy. You said that.
I think it's very it's interesting, and I love having you on the show, man, because you put some real perspective on so much. I love the perspective that you put on things. I'm still in the air with it, but I can be honest and say that you've added a lot of food for thought to this Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight this week, and the significance behind the fight. I didn't see that far out, right? Well, I saw far out, but not in that way. I've been seeing it more so by Jake. Hello boxing. But
we can't lose him. We
but
can't
you feel
lose
like
him.
we can't lose him. You feel like we need to keep him around.
Mr. Hackett's advising everyone to bet the over. Bet the over.
Hey, look, man. I don't care what I don't care what you bet on. I just want to see the man around. I'm selfish when I say my statements. I'm selfish because if the sport continues to go as it is, my son might as well get a job. He come out better going to work if it goes how it is. If you take away the Saudi influence, you take away the now UFC influence, and you take away the Jake Paul influence, look at it as a pie. How much pie do you honestly have left?
I agree.
That's what Bernard Hopkins was just saying this weekend on the WBA convention, is that, you know, the reason why TKO is around and the Saudi money got in, and even with Jake Paul, is because boxing did a disservice to itself. But, you know, to your point, Mr. Hackett, you got the future in someone like Jaleel, who all he's going to see is the opportunities. Otherwise, what's the point? Let's get out of this right now if you're not going to give us the opportunities.
I mean, look at the big promoters that we do have, the big five, I call them. Matchroom, Queensberry, PBC, Golden Boy, and Top Rank. Those are the big five. If you're a pugilist fan, and all of you are,
Yes, sir.
haven't you noticed that the undercards are getting shittier and shittier?
Mm-hmm.
Because they only care about the 1, 2, or 3 guys that they can actually push to make them money. The rest of it they don't care about. You do not have the promoters who used to actually put young fight. Remember the days when the undercard was full of the young rising stars?
Yeah.
Right.
Then the
Right.
undercards are
Like the Ring
trash now.
magazine cards.
Yeah, once again, you got to see these. And you can say that Turkey Al-Sheikh, and you can say that Dana White don't know what they doing. They just fans of the sport. Well, if they don't know what they doing and they're fans of the sport, but they're giving me stuff that fans want to see, they're giving me young fighters that I want to know about before they got 25 fights. If they're thinking so far in the future that boxing has to be free at a certain level, give it back to the general people, then I want boxing in the hands of them, because the boxing has been in the hands of the big five, and the only thing they have done in the last 60 years is taken us from the point where we have boxing on television to the point where boxing has damn near become irrelevant. Do you realize because of the pros, just the pros, we don't even see Olympic boxing in prime time anymore? That all of that is based on the model that they have put forth. If somebody doesn't shake it up, boxing will not be anything but a side note. It'll be a side note. One of the greatest sports that produced icons will become a side note. Do you know, if you go through sports as a whole, boxing is the only sport that produced as many self-made millionaires as any sport in the world. And when we think about self-made millionaires, the vast majority of them are brown and black. So if you want to see a situation where black and brown people cannot use blood, sweat, and tears to make a financial income that could change the course of life for their entire families, keep it going the way it is. Keep it going the way it is. I'd rather see 150 fight cards a year, but they have purse caps, than seeing 15 people make $500 million to $2 billion, and the other 99% don't make a coin. If that's what you like, then I don't want you to be in charge of the sport, because ain't but 5 people.
what you have, Mr. Hackett, is vision. You're able to see the big picture, and I think a lot of people sometimes get focused on right in front of them. Like shout out to Keen Wise. I was going to put your message. Salute to Keen the Wise in the building. Appreciate you being here. Said boxing is more accessible now with streaming. Don't have to call Comcast and order fights anymore. I agree that that's part of it, but that's not monetizing the sport. The illegal streaming. This is what's hurting the sport, is the illegal streaming. The question is, what's the problem with the fighters not being developed? Why we have such a small pool of stars in comparison to the amount of talent we have out there? And like I was talking to Angelo about this earlier on the phone. I was talking to him, and I've talked about Ray with Ray Davis is on multiple times, is the concept of tilling the soil. Right? Dana White spoke to this to a degree. He didn't say tilling the soil, but he spoke about the reinvestment into the sport so that the sport can continue to provide for future generations. Boxing, the promoters that are in charge right now have taken and not put enough back in to build the sport up for another generation. They didn't prepare the soil. They didn't till it. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get it ready for the next harvest. They just took. And now boxing looks like a bunch of dry clay dirt, you know what I'm saying, that never had anything growing out of the ground. The foundation is gone. And that's because of, like I said earlier, the redlining, the inaccessibility to the fights with the pay-per-view model, and also the lack of development in the up-and-coming fighters, giving them the activity they need and giving them the eyes they need on them to make the next generation of stars. And that's why this window's been open, and a Turkey Al-Sheikh has come in, a Dana White has come in, TKO, Nick Khan, all these different movements that are being made, a Jake Paul, right, who have brought eyes to up-and-coming talent, given platforms for up-and-coming talent to perform, to showcase their talents, and to get fans to continue to build the sport, to keep the sport where it's supposed to be. And in this case, bring it back to where it once was.
And I think we have arrogance to add to that too. I don't want to be the guy that forgets the other piece of it. American athletes as a whole have a degree of arrogance that is so ridiculous. I remember as a youngster, pro athletes wanted to sign autographs, wanted to take pictures, wanted to do these things, wanted to be at the events, wanted to interview. But now everybody's gone into this, I'm a star. The only way to make my star shine so bright is giving less access to myself. Do you realize Muhammad Ali was with the people, and he's probably the most beloved athlete in the world? He never shied away. We got to get these athletes back at the situation where they're part of what's going on. I remember when you could see athletes sitting in the crowd, and every athlete wasn't sitting ringside. Ringside has become like the elegant seats where you can look with your binoculars and see the celebrities. But I remember when they used to sit in the crowd, and people be like, man, I sat next to Joe Frazier. I sat next to this. That part of the boxing part has to come. Fighters have to take their own accountability as well.
Right. You
cannot run away and hide and think that you're going to get my money just because you're a boxer. You know, that part has to be there too. The accountability to your fans. That when Sugar Ray Leonard was a fighter, Sugar Ray Leonard was Madison Avenue because Sugar Ray Leonard had accessibility. Nobody wants you to endorse their product if you ain't accessible to see it.
Right.
You know, that's the piece that we got to look at as well. Our fighters have to feel that they're in a special place because you get the privilege of being a professional athlete. And if you're at the highest level of the game, then you have the privilege of being a pro athlete at the highest level of the game. That comes with some responsibility. The people who hire you, sometimes we got to remember they treat you how they treat you because you treat yourself how you treat the people that pay the bill.
Okay.
And they promoters have got to the point where they see a value in being friends with the fans, but they don't push you to do it. We got people who who are fanatics of promotion companies and not fanatics of fighters. Because the promotion company understands the value of the people. How can I not talk to, just using the fighter, not just saying him, how can I not talk to Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather, but Bob Arum is standing there amongst the people in the hallway of the rotundas giving out interviews? That don't even make common sense.
Exactly.
There's a difference. I want the fighters to understand this. You are one step above the people because you're rich. The promoters are 2 steps above you because they're wealthy. Yep. If the wealthy guy goes and sees the guy at the bottom, why do you think that you're above them?
Amen. It's about that time. Listen,
hey, Clay, before you end, can you show the super chats? Because we don't want to mess with those guys.
Shout out to the Libra 926 in the building. Support the channel. Something light for the bro, no doubt. Salute to the Libra. CJ Rich Boxing in the building. BS says appreciation for the conversation, no doubt, man. Thank you for everybody being in the building. Coach, I hope this becomes a regular thing. I think these conversations are great. I think the people get to see and get some real perspective on the sport. I've got a lot of topics. I'm telling you, don't sleep on me. I got conversations that we can have that can get very interesting on this sport. I'm excited about what we're getting ready to go into in 2026. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy in the air, rollouts of Zuffa boxing and all those different things that are happening. People have opinions on it, but I'm interested and always open to hear and hungry to hear things from somebody who's on the ground. Like you are, you really have a on the ground perspective on things. It is what it is, right? Shout out to everybody in the room, man. This is that ATP Combat Media Show, right? Clay Moraine and the usual suspects. Team Hackett in the building. El Negro Mexicano. Get used to that name. I mean, when I said that name the other day, everybody was like, "What? You being racist?" El Negro. I was like, "Oh God, here we go with those folks." But I think we're gonna have a lot of good expectations to see from El Negro Mexicano, man. Until the next one, it's that ATP Combat Media Show. And at this point, we out.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitted for it, cause you all care.